The Boston College Eagles have stolen Syracuse's top recruit.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I'm your host, AJ Black. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as playoffs wind down. The sports stop sporting like we want them to, but this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a booster or bonus daily. That's right, everything for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, folks, we got three big news items today. We're going to talk about Marcus Upton. It's been a couple days since, and I had so many other things I wanted to talk about that I totally forgot that this happened over the weekend. So we're going to talk about it on today's show. We'll look at why BC versus Syracuse in terms of recruiting, where the two teams are at, and why BC needs to take it to the Orange and make sure that they do not lose out on major recruiting battles to Syracuse and Fran Brown. And finally, we're going to look at some talking points at the ACC Media Day, which is coming up on Monday. So let's kick this off by talking about the biggest news from the weekend, and that was the commitment of Marcus Upton. On Friday evening, Marcus Upton announced that he was committing to Boston College. Now, who's Marcus Upton, you might be asking? Maybe you're not a recruiting dork like myself. Marcus Upton is an 3-star, rated an 89, recruit from Winslow Township in New Jersey. He is a safety. Hear that a lot right now with BC recruiting, who was originally committed to the Syracuse Orange. He decommitted to the Orange in mid-June and quickly set up an official visit to Boston College after that. After that, it sounded like everything was going BC's way. My co-worker at 247, Brian Doan, spoke with Upton shortly after his official visit. Things went great. He really connected with the staff. We found out that BC had been lingering around talking to him while he was still committed to Syracuse. Happens everywhere. This is not a new thing here, folks. And I think this is where the commitment happened. Now, as I said, silent commitments happen where a kid will tell a staff. You'll get like the Spencer Dickow or any of the staff members posting things about, oh, we got a new one. And then you wait because nothing's happening. It's, as I said, there's a lot of times that there's a specific purpose for this. And I believe Marcus had a specific date in mind because it had some special value to him. And he picked the 12th. He picked on Friday. Now, this is I'm not going to get into the Syracuse part. That's for segment 2. This is another addition to what's becoming a loaded defensive backs room. They have 8 commitments. And a lot of this, you have to thank a lot of different staff members. Marcus Upton, there's 2 big names you want to look at when you're talking about his commitment. You have the positional coach, that's Ray Brown, who's been killing it as the new defensive backs coach for the Eagles. He's been crucial in a lot of commitments, including Shaker Razik, who's a quarterback. Not even just his position, he's very good. And then what I love too is that this was a good one for Savon Huggins. Remember, Savon Huggins, he's not the defensive backs coach. That's what Brown does, but he is more involved in the New Jersey area. Remember, he's a New Jersey high school legend in that area. He played there. He played at Rutgers. That's his area. So this was a good one for him. He needed a good commitment under his belt for this class, and this is a good one for Huggins as well. Now, the rest of that defensive backs room, 8 guys. You have Ray Sykes from Georgia. You have Omarion Davis from South Carolina. Marcellus Townsend, who is teammates with Bryce Lewis, the tight end and son of defensive coordinator Tim Lewis. He's in. You have Charleston Colden, TJ Green. There is a lot of talent in this room. And what blows my mind about the looks of this class, where things are at with this group, is that what was the big issue at the end of last year for BC? It was when Elijah Jones disappeared. We don't know what happened with him. We don't know why he was gone, but he's gone. And then all of a sudden, all of that depth issue started to rear its ugly head. All of a sudden, you had Max Tucker out there he was good. He had a good as game against SMU, but he was a freshman, and he's going to have his bumps. You had Carter Davis playing out there. You had KP Price. You had more younger guys, and that is in addition to an injury to Cole Batson as well. So this spring, Bill O'Brien comes in, and you start to hear buzz that he likes his team, especially the defense. He sees that there's a lack of depth there. This group immediately flips that narrative on its head. Now it's going to take a year or two. You're not going to be playing all freshmen next year. You don't have to because you got Ryan Turner now. I mean, credit to Jeff Halfley, he addressed it too. Ryan Turner will be back. Cameron Martinez, I believe, will be back. I think Bryce Brown is gone, but you get two more veterans that you can add in, hopefully with Amari Jackson, who sticks around, and some of these other guys who will be older. And then all of a sudden, that kind of gives you that buffer for your secondary so that now you have, look at all, just safety position, right? You have Upton, you have Ray Sykes, Amari and Davis. There's three right there, and I'm sure I'm missing one of the guys. I think there's four. I think it's half safeties, half cornerbacks, but they have a lot, and some may not work. That's what college football is like, right? Sometimes you don't hit on everything that you bring in, but maybe you find your next your next really good safety, your next Jamie Silva, your next, whatever safety you want to bring up, Justin Simmons. That is what you're hoping for here, is that you brought in enough talent and guys that you've evaluated. And, there's a bunch of guys from Georgia in the South and South Carolina too, that Tim Lewis, he's been doing the tours and the camps and stuff with his son. I'm sure he's seen a lot of these guys. So he knows exactly what he's getting. It's not a surprise. It's not something he's never seen before. And with Upton, now you have your crown jewel of your class. He's not a 4-star. I get it. I know everyone, that magical 4-star. He is 1 point away from a 4-star on 247. Come on, 247. I gotta talk to my bosses about this, right? Hey guys, come on. I got Boston College fans. They're just dying for that 4-star. But I can tell you this: if he has a year like he did last year, it'd be hard to not give him a point bump, because I think he had 6 interceptions last year. He had a really good year. He was playing both ways. He plays safety and wide receiver, but he'll be a safety at BC. So this was big, and I can't believe I forget which reader it was. And if you're a listener out there, thank you for bringing it up, because I totally forgot to talk about him, because I was talking about EA Sports and the basketball commitment. And then and then you're like, hey, you can never talk about Marcus Upton. That was an oopsie on me, but there you go. Now I'm not done with this though, because when I talk about recruiting, it's more than a 1-segment deal here on Locked On BC, your show, your team every day. I want to talk about BC and Syracuse, because this got the orange and hackles last time. And I want to talk about the recruiting battle between Fran Brown and Bill O'Brien. We'll talk a bit about that in just a moment. I love sports, but I love them so much, I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer sports games, and we're still in that darn all-star break. But there's less sports. But there's WNBA going on too. But sports aren't sporting like I want them to. FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want to. And with baseball coming back shortly, all you have to do is open up the app and dream up any bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone, every day, all summer long. I'm looking at strikeouts for Cutter Crawford in his next outing. Usually it's around 6 or 7. Going over under on that that's an easy bet to make. You think he's going to go over. You see who he's playing. Maybe you're playing against good offense. You're not thinking it. Go under. You put in your perspective, and it makes the betting so much easier. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the Major League Baseball. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? What are you doing? You got to turn down the volume with all that shouting. Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channel app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. This is Locked On Boston College, AJ Black, and I've seen a bunch of you guys in the comments section. I forget who it was yesterday. One of you guys yesterday said, AJ, you've been really ornery lately, or I love that you've been giving our opponents a hard time, and it makes it more fun to listen to you. Well, with the Marcus Upton news, I'm back. I got more of it. So BC lands a recruit who was committed to Syracuse, not only one that was committed to Syracuse, but what at the time was their highest rated commitment. Now, the media itself has gushed over Fran Brown for the last 6 months. We've heard it all the time. He's an expert recruiter. He's a recruiter of the year, all that stuff. And, he's going to really turn around Syracuse. And I've said, yeah, he is a good recruiter, but he's also only been a positional coach. And we just went over what BC went through with Jeff Hafley learning on the job. I expect more of that with Fran Brown. So, it only takes bad results on the field to nullify your ability to recruit. Because remember, Jeff Hafley was supposed to be a great recruiter too, but once his team started to stink, it didn't happen. So where are they at right now? Now that BC took one of Syracuse's best, where are they at? BC has 22 commitments right now. They have one silence, so they're going to get up to 23. Syracuse has 28 commitments. Well, when you have a new coach and a lot of roster movement, that happens. BC didn't have a ton of roster movement like Syracuse did, but they did. So when you look at the ACC ratings, like if you go to 247 and you put up the team ratings and just go to the ACC, Syracuse is 8th and Boston College is 11th. But there's a more reliable number that I think is where I would look at. I don't look at just the bulk number because Syracuse is getting tons of commitments, and they're not even many of them are lower 3 stars. Doesn't matter for that number. It's just how many recruits you're getting. If you're just loading up, you're going to get higher on there. I look at the average rating of a recruit, and credit to Syracuse, they have 86.07. BC has 85.67. Now, caveat that a little bit here. Fran Brown had a running start to this because he was hired in November before the class of 25 really even started. Jeff Hafley left at the end of January. BC didn't hire Bill O'Brien until the middle of February. He had to scramble to get this class together, to make these connections, to do the work that, some other staffs already had years to go. So I look at this and I think they're both, honestly, if you kind of just factor in that piece, they're very similar in terms of where their rankings are now. Now, if you talk to a Syracuse fan, they're going to go ahead and look at the class of 2026 ratings. In the class of 2026 ratings, Syracuse is up there. I think they're second right now. And they have a 93.41. BC has 2 commitments, and for some reason, they don't have a 247 comp score yet, so they can't do that. So when I look at who Syracuse has, they have 2 4-stars. Demetrius Samuel, an athlete from Florida, and Isaiah Williams. Now, who knows what's going to happen with that? Could they keep him? Well, we don't know. But what I'm going to say is that this is going to be an interesting recruitment battle between Bill O'Brien and Fran Brown. Fran Brown, to his credit too, has beaten BC at least for one. I'm not going to say Rayshawn Andrews, who was on campus for an official visit. I'm not going to say it's a loss for BC because BC had I am sure they probably had other kids that were defensive backs, and that 8 that we just talked about, they were higher than him. Quante Gillians, who committed to Syracuse, I would consider that one a win for Syracuse over BC because I'm sure BC really wanted him. So that right now I think it's kind of even. But BC did get to strike back, and we'll have to see how this thing continues going. You have 28 commitments right now for Syracuse and 23 for BC. When they get closer to when we start to play the games, that's when decommitments start to happen. That's when people start flipping more, at least at the BC Syracuse level. So let's see if both teams can hold the guys that they have, because it's going to be an interesting little battle there in the Northeast. And don't cut out Rutgers too, because in years past, I've heard that BC didn't even want to be considered to be recruiting close to what Rutgers is at, but Rutgers is at a high level right now, and they're a Northeast school, and you're going to now have to battle a Northeast school for kids in New Jersey and Connecticut. I mean, Jordan Houston committed there, Chris Vigna. Those are both high BC commitments, high on their boards, I'm sure. So that's going to be a challenge for BC as well. So good on Upton, right? It's good that BC beat out Syracuse there, but there's still work to do, and we're not going to be able to know who's going to have the upper hand in this probably for a little while. But it's going to certainly be a rivalry again. And I'm sure both of these, and I've seen some of the comments that are made online, kind of like jokes and stuff. I get the sense that Syracuse and the BC recruiting staff don't see eye to eye, and I don't blame them. They're battling for their jobs and to do things and to win. So that's just part of the game, right? So in our final segment, ACC kickoff starts on Monday, and I want to talk to you about some of the storylines that we're going to be watching and how it ties into Boston College. We'll get into all that in just a moment. Locked on Boston College, AJ Black here. If you're looking for a second listen, like you're done with this episode and I want you to try out some other Locked On shows. Check out Locked On Syracuse. We're just talking about Syracuse. If you want to check out what they're saying, go over there and check out Locked On Syracuse. They've got a new host who's all into Syracuse sports. So if you want to check that out, go over there and get the enemy's perspective. See what they say. Now, on Monday in Charlotte, North Carolina, at the Queen City, Jim Phillips will be holding his yearly ACC kickoff to 2024, and all the schools will be there. Boston College will be represented by Bill O'Brien, Thomas Castellanos, Donovan Ezaraku, and Drew Kendall. Those will be the guys that will be talking. I won't be there. I got to be honest with you. Having to fly from Boston to get a hotel room to hear what I hear all the time at practice, even like more generic, it's not my cup of tea. But I'll listen and I'll tell you what I hear about. And I'll definitely, I think there'll be some Locked On people down there. So hopefully if I can get some to do a quick interview for me, I might do that too. But what are we going to be looking for in this one? Because this is a big ACC. The ACC kickoff is going to be must watch for a lot of folks this year. We're not going to just be talking about Florida State and Clemson's domination. And I'm sure Jim Phillips will probably talk about the graduation rate and the 7 championships. BC lacrosse will be mentioned, I'm sure, or they'll mention the 7, and that includes BC. But people are gonna push him on a few different topics. You know it's coming. He's gonna be ready to talk about FSU and Clemson in terms of their role, their position in the conference, and what's the conference think about this, what they're doing, the lawsuits. We're going to hear all about that and what the conference is planning. He's got to be careful though, because it's all in court right now, and you don't want to say the wrong thing that can be brought up in court and be held against you. So expect him to have very sanitized answers that I am sure were either cleared through a publicist, lawyer, or both. Because I don't think he's going to give you much. I'm going to tell you that right now. What he will address, though, I'm sure, because he did it last year and he'll probably do it again, is the revenue of the conference. Is there any new initiative? Last year, he talked a lot about how the numbers went up per school because of the Comcast deal. Or the Comcast deal either started or they were just getting their first payout. He was talking about that and looking at other ways to increase the revenue across the ACC. I'm very interested to see if he has any new ideas. And hopefully it's not just a couple dollars here and a couple dollars there. We have the new winners pot that's coming out that for the teams that win to give them a boost. Is he going to give us some details on that? I'd love to hear what sports it's going to include. I would really love it if women's lacrosse was included. I would love to hear about what the amount's going to be. And I'd also love to hear, I imagine we're going to hear about some sort of new initiative, either a way to get more money into the conference or something. And it's not going to be like mind blowing. You'll hear about something that's probably kind of small, but it'll be an increase in money. I'm sure that'll be something that's going to be brought up. We're also going to hear about paying players. With that coming up, what's the ACC's view on it? What's Phillips' view? He can't go in and say, I don't agree with it. I think it's because that would make the ACC look foolish. but he might talk about what the conference is doing, how they're kind of aligning, and what the kind of the goals is to rolling all this out. You're going to hear about that. And then the expanded college football playoffs. I know for BC fans right now, it probably doesn't matter because we ain't sniffing that for a while. But there's other conference members that are very interested to hear about that. From anyone from Clemson, Florida State, to even NC State, Louisville, teams that have been playing better. There's 12 teams that are now in. And the potential that the 12 teams could even become 16 in a year or two, which I've heard buzz about. We're going to hear all about all of that. Those are all the big storylines that we're going to hear about. Honestly, I think his comments at the ACC kickoff are more interesting and usually have more meat to them to talk about than anything the Boston College group has come in, because you're going to hear the same talking points about how hard they work, and they're all full students that give to others, and that's great. It's just I've heard you hear it all the time, so it's not like anything new. You might hear some new things here and there, but it's very a lot of it's just pretty quick. We'll also get the media poll that'll be coming up through this too, and I'm sure BC is going to get hammered on that like they do every year. You'll get your ACC Player of the Year, which will probably be DJU or Cabe Klubnik or something like that. Or no, probably Cameron Ward. Sorry, Cameron Ward of Miami. He's going to definitely win it. Your all ACC preseason teams. We'll see if any BC guys get on that. There'll be some stuff. And we'll talk about all of that on Locked On ACC. Locked On ACC. Locked On BC, your team every day. We cover Boston College sports here, and I am AJ Black. Thank you for listening. Come over to 247's Eagle Insider. Check out my work over there. We've got recruiting news. We've got opponent previews. We've got basketball recruiting. Lots of stuff going on over there, and it's just going to keep ramping up as the year goes on. Especially as practice, you're going to get practice notes, all of that up there, and become a VIP so you can get all everything on there, because there's a lot of good stuff. And we'll be back again tomorrow for another episode. So follow me on Twitter at AJBlack247, and we'll see you again tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Boston College, your team every day.